Thankfully, there
And
was no
that,
network connection now that we are live on the network.
indeed, indeed.
That's the
All right.
internetwork.
The
The,
interwebs.
the interwebs.
Interweb work, maybe?
Mr. Badcop, you're going to have to check out what I put in the script for next week if you want to see some interwebs talk. I've made sure that you have some notes with respect to the interwebs in there.
You are doing a fantastic job. In fact, I'm going to double your pay.
Ha! Well, that'll be twice as much as I make at my current day job.
Exactly. That's what I was hoping for. You'd earn so much money on the podcast that you wouldn't go back to your day job.
Awesome. Well, that's just great. All right. Red shirt, blue shirt. That's right. Red fish, blue fish.
There you go.
That wasn't in the show notes of how to dress.
Maybe I'll have
I
to start
am
looking
wearing
at that.
an Ohio State shirt. Now, if you're Canadian, you may not know that we had the very first national championship college football game this year. 4 teams went in. Ohio State was number 4. Won their first game, played for the national championship, and won. So that's the reason you have the national championships, is because the number 4 ranked team is actually the number 1 ranked team.
Yes, with a starting quarterback that has started all of 3 games this season.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
They're
Well, I'll add to that, though. If you are Canadian,
yes,
you will recognize that a red jersey is actually the national color. So thank you very much for your support of
you're
Canada.
very
gentlemen.
welcome.
Absolutely, yes. Doesn't do so well on a starship, but works great in Canada.
That's right.
And if you have noticed, we have a large field of blue on our flag. So thank you, Lynn.
There you go. We're crossing the streams tonight.
I was told never to do that.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of what you've been told, it's okay. And on that note,
And Brylang, you are very observant. Several weeks ago, it might have been months ago, I don't know. It seems like just maybe 2 weeks ago. You noticed I had a new background. And I think it was during Geo Gearheads I didn't have a chance to bring it up as, we were discussing other things. So there you go. There's my new palette background. I thought it was time for a change.
is it a complete palette of colors?
It's a complete palette, yes, with colors.
There you have it.
Yes. So,
There you go.
with that said, we're 3 minutes behind.
We should get started.
With
Let's
that,
go. I'll be kicking.
You'll start
Yo,
off the
kick
podcast.
it, boy.
Kickification.
And I will start the recorder and start some music. And away we go. I don't know how to do this. Here we go. Ready?
Oh, yeah, there it is. Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the Great Pacific Northwest. So, we're going to talk about caches, cachers, all that stuff unique to this little corner of the country. Go on ahead and like, favorite, retweet any post. It's time to go caching in the Northwest.
Tonight, on this very special night of caching in the Northwest, and every night is a special night,
Absolutely.
we are going to talk about social media and its effect on geocachers. So let's start an experiment. Go ahead and tweet something and see if anybody listens. No. But to talk about social media, we need our social media expert. Some say he tweets only with his feet, and others say there are no social structures among monkeys. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Very true. Every single word of it. Very true. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, depending upon when and where you're listening to us, assuming that we do actually have our show available for you to download. So
That's right.
we'll talk about that later. But tonight, we discuss, as the Bad Cop has already shared, social media for Northwest cachers. And other geolocation gamers.
Oh, how generically put. In part one on our social media series, we discussed the best social media channels for NorthWest cachers and what to expect when you use them. So, Bad Cop, as our resident anti-social media, would you mind starting things off here?
Why am I antisocial? Well,
Because I wrote it in the script and now you are.
I think it's all just bad,
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
in the name.
Yeah. Well, there are many social media platforms. We can go back and think, the one that caught my attention first, of course, was the Twitters.
Ah.
Yes. And then the Facebooks.
Yep.
And then, what do we call them now? Are they the Plusers for those on Google Plus? Which, I have to admit, is my favorite. So, I'm a Google Plus fanatic. And so Google Plus is the one that I prefer to. I will go and stalk people on Facebook, of course, follow their tweets on Twitter. But there are so many Facebook groups that I don't dare to mention them, that I may miss so many more.
Yeah, there are lots.
These Facebook groups are even geocaching related or geolocation game related. There are a lot of Facebook groups and Google Plus groups for Ingress, and you can get all sorts of very specific, like maybe just the southwest corner of exit 133 on I-5.
That's pretty
not
specific.
to mention just the the little less generic, like east side of Seattle. So there are the local groups, the hyper local groups. And then there are groups that are for specific purposes, like puzzle caches or clever containers. But you know what I found out over these many years that I've done social media?
Oh, do tell.
No, we haven't.
I'm a computer kind of social media guy. I like to sit in front of a PC, with a screen and a keyboard, to consume these posts, to be able to do that light internet stalking, as we mentioned earlier.
So you're talking about as opposed to on a mobile device, then?
As opposed to a mobile device, exactly. So, we're talking about apps and such, and of course, there's an app for every social media platform out there.
There is an app for that.
Yeah. I really like sitting in front of the computer and consuming my social media feeds.
Excellent. Well, sitting in front of the computer is always a good place to go, and the social media sites you've referenced are definitely good places to go for geocachers. And to lend in my experience on the topic, I found that it really depends on who you're trying to contact or get information from as to which social media site you should go to or follow. Just to throw out my general observations, Google Plus is quite popular with, let's call them the geo-gearhead type of caching crowd. The more the techno-oriented caching folks tend to go towards Google Plus, but Facebook always seems to be the first stop for most geocachers. There's a number of cachers active on Twitter as well, but I've found, until very recently, I found it very hard to actually follow anything on Twitter with respect to geocaching, but I've learned recently a few little tricks about how to use Twitter a little bit better, and actually ironically found that through the process of job search as opposed to trying to do anything about geocaching. But we'll talk about that in a future episode.
That is ironic.
Tricky guy. You tricky monkey.
I am.
Tricky monkey.
Apparently, I have learned very recently, sorry, I was just going to throw it, very recently I've learned one should never trust a monkey.
On that note...
And you're going to leave us there, aren't you? We're waiting for you
for now.
The thought. Okay.
Well, I agree that not all social media channels are created equally, and I use them personally for different things. I've got a Facebook account, and I tend to use that for my personal communications. My family and people that I have actually met face-to-face and know are on there. But Twitter I use more as a lot of technical geocaching, so just news feeds and those kind of things to just consume. And actually, to be quite honest, and what else would I be but honest here? Most of my social media is consumption based. I have to confess I'm not the most prolific engager of creating content on social media. I typically just follow a lot of things. So rest assured that you may not see a whole lot of activity from me, but I'm plugged in and watching a lot of stuff. And as we all mentioned, Google Plus, and that's does seem to be where I go for more of geocaching related content is on Google Plus. There are others out there, of course. Some have come and gone. Some are on the upstart. I've got an account at LO that just started up, but I do really nothing there. So it's for me, it's well the big three and I'm sure people could argue about which three are the big three, but Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus are the big three for me. And never got into Instagram or Pinterest, although I think they're fine. I just never got into them because I have the philosophy that you can't follow too many or you just get completely lost. So focus on the ones that you are really plugged in and connected to and do those well. How about that?
That's really good advice. And, I say find the ones that your friends are on because that's what's going to draw you there. I mean, if your mother has a Facebook page, well, then you've got to be on Facebook. And if your mother has a Facebook page, it's really time to be off Facebook, is what I'm saying. But I'm amazed how Facebook, not so much Twitter. Twitter is really grabbed by news media. News media loves the 140 character limit of Twitter and said, "Did you see what so and so posted?" When did that become nightly news? Anyway. But Facebook has become a lot of smaller companies' complete media outlet. Yeah. They do everything through their Facebook page, which I find very interesting. As I said earlier, I like the functional groups of social media. Be it a puzzle-solving group or a local caching group or your local Ingress group. I don't want to call them a clan, but but there are also other medias that they use. So I know in this area when Ingress gets together, they use GroupMe. That's another.
Oh yeah.
It's a more of a messenger, kind of like Twitter, but a little more private.
Yeah.
That they can use to communicate amongst themselves. So or ourselves, because we're all there.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of these, so find the one that your group is using and jump on board that.
Makes sense. That sounds like really good advice. I think we'll touch on some more of that kind of advice a little later in the show, so that's fantastic. Something else we'll touch on a little later in the show, and we should not forget about mentioning, is Meetup, which is really well tailored towards the concept of social get-togethers and geocaching outings, etc. Since, as we know, geocaching.com won't allow you to create an event, an official geocaching event, specifically for the purpose of going out and finding caches. So you have to work your way around that. One of the ways people work around that is by leveraging the site Meetup, which is meetup.com. If you search geocaching, the topic geocaching in Meetup, you will find quite a number of unofficial and official get-togethers of folks who want to get out and go caching, or who want to work on puzzle caches. So it's another type of Meetup event that happens. And like I said, teaser, we're going to talk about some feedback that we got through social media on the topic of Meetup a little later.
Very cool. And I think of Meetup as more of a meeting, dating type site. Is this a geocaching dating site? Is this a kissing show? If you know that movie reference.
Thank you, Fred Savage.
But actually, I have used Meetup for photography meetings and other things, so I know that it's not just a dating site. I don't even know if it has any dating elements to it, to be honest with you, but it is a great way to get out.
Doesn't everything on the internet?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose, yeah. I've been so far out of that world that I don't even think about dating, but...
Your wife will be happy to hear that.
Yes, and I'm old enough now that I should really just consider carbon dating.
Nice.
But But yeah, they serves a great purpose. Get out and meet some cachers, especially if you're just new to an area or you're going to be in an area for, maybe you're working in Edmonton for periods of time or something. I don't know.
Oh goodness, who would possibly want to do that?
I don't know.
Boy, are we pandering to our audience or what?
But and social media can be good for phone a friend if you can get your group on there. And you mentioned was it Group Me? Is that the right name for it? Mm-hmm. I've used a couple of things like that for tracking members of a sports team that my son's been involved with, so that we all get game updates and location updates and who's bringing the Gatorade this week kind of thing, and we've used them for that. So it could be great for that, especially if you're out on a group geocaching jaunt.
Ooh, a jaunt.
A jaunt.
What was that text-based group tool that we used at one time there?
I've used Celly quite a bit.
Celly, that was
CEL, I think it's CEL.ly, and it can be done entirely through SMS messaging, but there's also, of course, an app for that you can use to do things like that, and it's worked pretty well too. And one of the nice things about it, and I think Group Me also applies, is that you maintain a little privacy and anonymity in that you can participate in group text messaging without revealing your actual cell phone number. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of useful. And if you don't
nice feature.
Yeah, and you can use it through, like I said, an app or just through a web browser type thing, so you don't even have to technically have a cell phone, although it kind of defeats the purpose of being out and about for these things. But
Celly was nice for those who didn't have a smartphone.
Right.
So you've got groups with you, and you've got smartphones and feature phones. Right?
Yes.
The opposite of smart is feature. Oops. And so Celly was good for that in the day. I don't think it's so much of an issue now, but that was good in the day. Now, you probably don't want to rely on channels that focus on photo or video as a means of communication when out geocaching, such as Snapchat or Vine or other things like that.
Chat roulette.
Chat roulette. Ooh. No.
Don't go there.
I never did. Is it still open?
I have no idea. I've never been there. I've just heard about it.
While those may be good for the phone a friend idea, you could do a Snapchat of, hey, is this the right location? I think this is where the geocache ought to be, but I can't find it. I don't know if those are the appropriate means there. So.
Now, and why would you pose that, Bad Cop?
Well, with Snapchat, I only know from my daughter who was into Snapchat, and those pictures, they're really still on your phone, so be careful.
Right.
Anything you ever put over the internet, they never go away.
Yeah.
The Snapchat, you'd look at the picture. I think you had 10 or 15 seconds, and then it was gone and unretrievable from within the app. So if you're using this as a means of communication, it may be a little frustrating to say, hey, is this the spot where the cache is? And they're looking at it, go, well, I don't know. Oh, it's gone.
So it's not going to really be conducive to actively trying to get information while you're out caching.
Right.
Yeah.
So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. It may not be the way to do that with the photo or video, but then again, sometimes the picture's worth 1,000 words. Now, we have Wet Coaster in the chat room who says his Ingress group is using Slack for communications.
Not familiar with that one.
Apparently they're a bunch of slackers.
Sounds that way.
And he also says, who would want to work? Who'd want to be in Edmonton?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
I was just speaking hypothetically.
Oh. Well, Brian Lang said he's worked in Edmonton for way too many years. But I don't think that's the same thing. So anyway, social media tools.
Well, not to diss any of our listeners in the Edmonton area.
Oh, I wasn't. I was just merely reading what other people were saying. as you do in social media.
Yet, one more place the bad cop is not allowed to travel to.
Instead of been banned from Edmonton.
Yeah.
So, just add it to the list. So, hey, guys, all of our listeners and viewers, as always, silver bullet.
I'm sorry.
We really encourage you.
Monkey, you were breaking up a little bit. Could you start over?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I will. Yeah, we were getting a little disruption on our interwebs there. So I was saying, as always, we're going to give you some direction here on the show, but perhaps no single, let's call it a silver bullet. We're going to really encourage you to get out to caching events in your local area and ask other cachers what social media channels they use. So find out what the other cachers who you are going to want to interact online with are using. Are they using Facebook, Twitter, Google+, something else entirely? And then ask them if it's okay to follow them and get connected. And then what you'll have is you'll establish that that phone a friend connection without necessarily having to use text or voice. Not that there's anything wrong with actually phoning somebody and talking to them. We quite enjoy that. But sometimes other some forms of media can be helpful for different, if you're not relying on necessarily a real-time connection. So that would be some feedback I'd throw out there.
Absolutely. It goes back to what the bad cop mentioned earlier about use the channel that your friends are using or that the local people you're trying to reach are using. It just makes the most sense. Now, we got some feedback from listener Brylang, who's also been in the chat room tonight. He says, I use social media sometimes to ask for hints or how to use software. I also humble brag about my more memorable finds and post photos of my adventures. He says, on occasion, I've even looked at Pinterest for ideas for clever or unique geocaching containers. I just haven't managed to turn any into reality yet. And I have to say, I'm right there with you. I've seen some great ideas. I think, oh, I'm going to make that someday. They have yet to appear in real world. He says, I'm a member of the How to Use GSAC, that's the Geocaching Swiss Army Knife group on Facebook for help with that fine piece of software, and he has a big, long, cryptic link there. And he's a member of the Geocaching Puzzle Help group on Facebook as well. Both of those links will be in the show notes.
Fantastic.
There you go. So then again, you're using focused groups or functional groups within the large social media to break down the groups or break down all these people into smaller groups that you can use and that you can be a part of. Puzzle solving groups are fantastic. I remember before Facebook. I know, I'm old.
But there was a time before Facebook?
Yes, there was a time before Facebook when you actually had your face in a book, but you don't do that.
No, not at all.
That we had a group on email, basically kind of the phone a friend thing.
Yeah.
And we would solve puzzle caches together over email. So, same idea, but now Facebook makes it so much easier. Yeah.
A couple of things back up I throw out on that. So first of all, on that last point you just made, the current really useful way of doing that is actually using I find Google Docs. To create spreadsheets or Google documents to work collectively with other folks on solving puzzles. I find that super helpful. And we also actually, the Van Geocaching group, we use that set of tools to plan events. So the whole group of people can work together asynchronously to plan an event. It works really well. One other thing I just wanted to throw out there, because I warned him I was going to razz him for it, is Brylang using the term humble brag. So for somebody who's pretty much the same age as I am, using a term my kids use, I'm like, come on, guy, really? Humble brag? Really? Just, I'm sure there's actually an English word for that.
Wow.
For some reason, razzing somebody reminds me that I think it might be time for somebody to roll over. Okay.
Ding. There we go. Nicely.
Very good. Thank you for that catch. Roll over in the tanning bed.
Yeah.
You don't want to get cooked on one side.
No.
Sorry. I try not to get too distracted, but Wet Coaster wants to know if I was on ARPANET back in the day. No.
Didn't you help create it?
Well, I'm not that old.
No, I wasn't on ARPANET either, but I did have an address of 2337, 2554. I think no, 23357, 2334. I think was my numeric address on CompuServe. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's get back on track. And Land Monkey, that's your job, but I'm doing it tonight.
Go for it, Benacom.
We also heard from Brex Keener, who says, I sometimes post logs on Facebook about my adventures, and I'm in that same puzzle group as Bryling, too. And, I think that is a great way to spread the word about geocaching, is to share your adventures on Facebook, or perhaps some other video sharing site. I can think of one, how do you say it? Oh, YouTube. Yes, we have a friend who shares their geocaching adventures on YouTube.
Do you?
Yeah. I have a friend. You seem shocked that I have a friend.
Just surprised. Shocked sounds strong.
Shocked sounds pretty strong. Anyway, now you got me coughing. But I think it's a great way to be that geocaching evangelist, to help your friends learn about geocaching. They can see this adventure and go, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. Hey, we're going out this weekend. You want to come with us? So that's what I wanted to say.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Now, she also goes on further to say, I've used Pinterest, and I have some geocaching boards for ideas, interest, and other thingies, she says. Geocaching art, and geocaching swag. Because, it's never the wrong time, and that's a double negative, and it's not coming out right. It's always the right time to make your own geocaching swag and drop it in the cache. Have that handmade touch to the swag. I like that.
Nice. Absolutely. And, quite honestly, Pinterest is not a site I've ever actually looked at. I have a lot of friends and family who are relatively active on Pinterest, and just for whatever reason, it's just never interested me. It's not been something where I've really gone, I'll probably check it out at some point in time. Yeah. But I think it's probably an age or male chromosome related thing. But I only have so many areas of interest that I can manage.
You've just sectioned off another group of listeners. Thank you.
I have found Pinterest quite interesting for just like I say, consumption of material and stuff. I've found threads on geocaching containers or something else I was looking for project ideas on, and I've browsed and searched and looked at a lot of Pinterest feeds, but I've never been connected enough to actually create a Pinterest account and post any content. So,
and I've been on Pinterest. I think I was there today. I was looking for something, clicked on it. Oh, look, and you get about 15 seconds on the site before it pops up and forces you to log in, which I too have never created an account. Yeah. So being able to browse on Pinterest seems to be reduced here in the last month or so.
Well, I sometimes come in the back door because I'm looking for something and I'll wind up doing a Google image search, and one of the images that I click on will take me to somebody's Pinterest feed.
Right. Yeah, I find that often as well. So on that note, Bex Keener also went on to share with us. She shares, and this is what we were alluding to earlier in the show, I also use meetup.com to arrange and join events and activities so others could come with me, and I am not doing things solo always. She says, we have a few Lower Mainland groups on meetup.com that do geocaching events and activities and have the availability for others to arrange events, activities for people to go together. We post pics there about the events, etc., and the meetup.com app has an instant message as well. It's pretty handy. So that's really great advice. She continues on, just the last little bit of information there. I wouldn't have gotten a lot of the finds that I have if I didn't go with the people from these groups. And then adds, plus I have met a lot of friends through there. So that's great.
Cool.
She's got a few links for meetup.com specific to the BC and the Lower Mainland that we'll throw up there on the site in the show notes. But as we said before, meetup.com, great place if you want to create an event but don't necessarily want or can create it through the geocaching.com medium. Meetup.com is a very popular place to either create or go and look for groups of geocachers getting together to just go geocache.
Yeah.
I am going to have to try meetup.com.
Yeah, very good. There you go. That's social media used for good, not evil.
Now, I do have to toss out one more kind of social media site, and that's the geocaching.com forums themselves. They
Absolutely.
are broken down by areas, and I've seen several let's go find this cache listings.
Nice.
So
on that note, I should also throw out that Metro Vancouver Geocachers, mvgeocaching.com, also has a very active forum where they have very similar types of topics of folks in the BC Lower Mainland who are going to get out and go geocaching together.
Well,
and there's often quite a lively discussion on the Q&A thread and this here very podcast thingy.
That is true. Another form of social media.
Exactly. And the WSGA, that's wsgaonline.org, the Washington State Geocaching Association, also has quite a lively forum as well.
Cool.
Dora Moore says, don't forget Instagram about sharing geocaching pictures.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, again, another great medium for just sharing quick bits of information or somewhere to go look before you go out on a geocaching adventure if you want to get a sense of what's the terrain like, where I'm going to go, or there will sometimes probably be spoiler pictures out there as well, so it gives you a little bit of intel before you go.
Exactly. And Land Monkey, will you read the next Q&A, please?
What have we got here? Oh, from Brian Lang. Fair enough. Whoa. Sorry, my headphones fell off. I can't read it now.
Okay. Yeah. You're going to find any excuse not to read.
Put your headphones back on so I can hear you.
Thanks. That works much better. So what I have from Brylang is humble brag is in the Oxford Dictionary, and he's provided us a link, which we may or may not include in the show notes, depending how I feel about it. So, all right. So this battle will continue for the next few episodes for anybody who really cares. And actually, we've got one more in from Wet Coaster. Again, another forum. It's www.geocachingedmonton.com/forum. Another forum for our listeners who are out in the Edmonton area.
Apparently, it's required that all Canadians live in Edmonton for a period of time.
It appears to be, yes.
Or have family there, yeah.
Okay.
It's a great place to be from.
Yeah, it really is. So at this point, folks, we want to let you know that your loyal hosts on this program, we have put our noses to the proverbial caching podcast grindstone, and we have some great shows lined up for you. Next week, on January 29th, we are honored to be joined by K&L Caching and Team Kiwi to dig into building cool techno/gadget caches. We're very excited about that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. On February 5th, we're planning to have another special guest join us to talk about what's new for geocaching trackables in 2015. And on February 12th, we continue the Challenge Caching series with a show about how to use online tools to help you with those challenge caches. February 19th, our show will feature yet another special guest from the Northwest who will be talking to us about Northwest trails. So, listeners, viewers, if you have thoughts, opinions, or questions on any of those topics, please get them into us. Bad Cop, please tell them how they can do that.
I would love to. Thank you for that intro. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Just as Land Monkey said, you can be part of the show. You can call 253-693-TFTC, leave us a comment, correction, or question any time of the day or night. Of course, you can leave us email at feedback@cachingnw.com. And don't forget to visit cachingnw.com for the show notes on this or more about any of the other Caching in the Northwest episodes. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming, so if you like this show, please click the PayPal button on the website. This show's licensed under a Creative Commons Attributions 3.0 license. Copyright 2015 by Chris Umfenauer. Good night, folks. Have a wonderful weekend and weekday. month, year, whatever.
Come back soon.